Well, I'm Jack Metcalf. I don't have a lot in common with Walter Hook when it comes to art, but we're both Montana artists. I currently teach at the university in the School of Art. I teach drawing, printmaking, and one art history course every once in a while. In addition to that, I have an alternative art space in Missoula called Real Good Art Space. I work with younger emerging artists on projects that they normally probably wouldn't have the space or the tools to use, and we kind of make their dreams come true in sort of kind of way. This is kind of like one of my title block for my website. A lot of times, a lot of my work is based in printmaking. I like a lot of different printmaking processes. Printmaking deals with the multiple, any kind of technique that you can make more than one of something. This piece in particular, I use a couple different processes. This is a relief print of a cat. It's like a stamp. It's hand carved. I'm carving away everything that's white, inking it up and pressing it onto paper. The fish is actually an etching where you use copper and you use acid to etch away the dark spots, and then there's kind of some more advanced processes that I won't go into, but there's also little things that are sewn together, the eye from prior prints. And what I do a lot of times is just I print a lot of imagery and then later I collage it together in different new and exciting ways to make one-of-a-kind pieces. This too shall pass is one of my favorite quotes. I guess it's historically known for it can bring the proudest man down and it can make the poorest man happy because everything's temporary, everything's subject to change. A lot of my themes in my work deal with time and things passing, new things becoming old, things that are ephemeral. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as I go along. This is me as a child. One of my favorite games as a child was looking at objects in my surroundings and trying to guess how tall they were. And I would go around with a ruler and I'd be like, I think that plant is 18 inches, and I'd go up and I would measure it. Later I would measure the circumference of trees. I don't know, it was just kind of a game. I like games, I guess. I guess I was always a very curious kid. My father was a naval captain, so I traveled around quite a bit. Always living in coastal cities around the U.S., from Hawaii to California, North Carolina, South Carolina, D.C. And he went into the reserves, and I grew up mainly in Georgia. He ended up being an engineer for GE. As a youngster, I always wanted to be an architect, so I went to undergrad for architecture. You'll see probably some things in my work, my later work, that still have some architectural elements. In architecture, you study planned paths and how, I guess you can call them spectators or inhabitants, interact with their environment. You're thinking about the space as a whole and how people interact with those spaces. I went to school at Savannah College of Art and Design for undergrad for architecture. After I graduated, I became pretty disinterested and kind of bored with architecture. You always have clients and you're never doing what you want to do. You're always trying to please other people. And then I kind of went out on my own and I rented a house with a studio in the backyard on an island called Burnside Island off the coast of Georgia. And I just went into art full time at this point after studying architecture and doing architecture for a bit. This is a house I really loved. Did a lot of drawing there. This is me inside my studio cleaning a brayer for relief printing. At this time I was doing a lot of highly detailed drawings. They're always a little bit, I don't know, a little quirky, playful, fun, creative, imaginative. I was trying to create work that was a little on the surreal side. This piece I think was 15 inches by 30 inches, maybe 15 by 22. It's all hand drawn with little dots. I got kind of obsessed at this point with just drawing very highly detailed drawings, making weird connections. I did a series of drawings where I would my mother would send me drawings that I did as a child, and then I would do them larger. I think I titled this series 6 times older, 6 times larger, so all the drawings are 6 times the size and I was 6 times as old. and I would use the same composition as I did as a child, but I would go back and kind of give it the attention that I had acquired from schooling and just like just growing up. And yeah, the same kind of idea. I would go around and kind of, if I found a bar, like this was a bar napkin over here on the left, of I had a composition I really liked. It was just discarded, and I picked it up and I brought it back to my studio, and then I redrew it with I had a lot of time. This piece is 30 inches by 30 inches, and I titled this piece "All Day Wearing a Hat That I Didn't Know Was There," I think was the title of this piece. Again, there's a lot of attention to detail, a lot of stippling, but I was borrowing the original composition of the found artwork. I was really, at this part of my life, I guess, like, this was probably created in 2008. I guess I was very romantic about the opportunity of chance, like the chance that I found this, the chance that I took it home, and just, I don't know, something about that I thought was really special. In Savannah, Georgia, I had a solo show called Maybe Something, Maybe Nothing, where I had 44 of these works, similar to I just showed. That, for this show in particular, I did something kind of interesting that created a dialogue with me and potential buyers. I let people pay whatever they wanted for the pieces. I kind of created this like sheet they could put whatever price. So literally somebody could walk away with all 44 pieces for a penny if they wanted. Nobody did that. It just kind of put a burden off my shoulders and put it on the patron's shoulders of what they thought it was worth. And I don't know, it was kind of an interesting experience for me. A lot of times at my shows, I like to incorporate friends and collaborators and try to turn the events into more than just objects on the wall. I've had people doing graffiti on vehicles outside. I've brought in dance groups. And you'll continue to see that evolve as I go through the presentation, and how I continue to try to reach out and try to make connections with other artists in the community, whether they're dancers, actors, maybe they're other visual artists as well. In 2010, I moved out to Missoula and I began grad school to receive my MFA. This is, I'm working in my studio while in grad school, making a lot of little dots. My work at this time was it was still in that tradition of a lot of stippling. All these are hand cut out, all the keys on the typewriter, they're all hand cut out, and I use little dissecting pins to pin them to the wall. I really like the shadows and creating that depth. I have a detail shot too of that piece. Still kind of going surreal, trying to, I don't know. A big thing for me is originality and trying to do things that I've never seen before. This piece is called "I Have Nothing to Say and I'm Saying It." That's a John Cage quote, experimental musician. This piece is actually pretty tall. This is like 5 feet tall. And I used several different processes, from relief to screen printing to cutting to sewing it back together and drawing on top of it. I ended up mounting it on wood and coating it in resin, which I do with a lot of my pieces. Then I use a French cleat to hang it on the wall so there's a cast of shadow. When I was a child, my grandfather lived in San Diego and he'd always take me to Tijuana, and one of my earliest memories were the donkeys that were painted like zebras. And I kind of use that imagery a lot. That pattern you'll see throughout a lot of my work with the zebra stripes. This piece, and sometimes I have fun with the titles. It's called "The Content is Content," or "The Content is Content," or "The Content is Content," because they're all spelled the same. It's kind of like a pun. But again, this is all hand stippled little dots. This piece is 24 by 36 inches. I don't know, I'm really like interested in a handshake for some reason. It's a greeting as a thing you do with your friends or someone you just meet. And I just find the hands very interesting, very telling parts of people's bodies. We use them for a lot. You don't realize how much you use them until one gets hurt. Yeah. After drawing like this, I'm really worried about carpal tunnel or something like that. But yeah. This is a self-portrait I did probably around 2012. At the time, I felt like I was just like kind of running as a machine because I was creating a lot of artwork. I was drawing a lot. I had like very rigorous studio hours. And I felt, I don't know, I think I was ignoring parts of my life, and that's why I felt like I had the Pinocchio nose. That was in order to get things done. This is another piece I did. This was about 3 feet by 3 feet. Around this time, I had a show at the Brink Gallery in Missoula. This show was called Considering Content, or Considering Content. That displayed a lot of that work that I just showed. This is one of the larger, probably two-dimensional pieces I created. I called it Holy Hell. This piece is, I guess, 8 feet tall, 12 feet wide. The black and whites are relief prints. In the background is like aerosol spray paint that I taped off carefully and try to create clean, strong edges. It's kind of like a holy trinity to me. At the time, I have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Father was James Earl Jones dressed up as this kind of monster in a tug-of-war match with Patrick Swayze, and then there's his son, because James Earl Jones to me was like Darth Vader, I am your father. The ghost, obviously Patrick Swayze in the movie, and then like this kind of bright, colorful sun. And I did this for the Top Hat before they got remodeled, and it was downstairs in their basement. They would have special events down there. Something I kind of do reoccurring is the window display at Noteworthy on Higgins in Missoula. These are a bunch of fish-headed planes dropping what I called love litters. They're little boxes with little air holes that have relief cut cats in them, kind of like scattered about. I just thought it was kind of an optimistic, kind of fun, playful piece that would brighten people's day as they walked by. This is another window display I did at Noteworthy. There was this kind of colorful character that entered my life named Bobby Lee Springfield. He was an old country singer-songwriter. He wrote a lot of songs for Eddie Arnold. We became friends, played me a lot of music, and that's an image of him. For some reason, I kind of thought of him as a little worm. So I kind of created this large relief printed worm. And how I printed it, I did it in sections. I made like one 90-degree turn, then I printed a bunch. I made one straightaway, printed a bunch, made one little tail cap, printed a bunch, and then I kind of put them all together, mounted it on wood, and cut them out to make kind of almost like a set piece. I called this et cetera, and then there's these little flowers that got kind of pulled up out of their pot. I don't know, they're smoking a cigarette. That was kind of funny. But another piece I did for their window, I don't know if I took a picture of the whole piece, but these were the images. They were kind of the same way, kind of like a set design. I called these road sodas. It was kind of like just a pile of cans in their window. I don't know. I had a friend that called a beer road soda. It's a horrible thing, drinking and driving, but I just thought it was kind of comical. But and I also kind of thought it was funny to have a big pile of cans in their little fancy window. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes I like to poke fun at people a little bit. This is another piece that was kind of like a sci-fi piece I did for their window. This was it in my studio before I brought it over. I had a lot of crystals, space, aliens. One organization I do a lot, I donate to on a regular basis is the Montana Skate Park Association. A lot of my friends are skateboarders and they have benefited greatly through skate parks growing up. So this piece actually carved into the skateboard deck, and then I kind of rolled it up. In Russian that says, "I'm just not that into you." And it's like one of those Russian stacking dolls. Again, I don't know, I thought it was funny. And then I did a kind of a sexy Burt Reynolds edition. This one has like faux fur at the bottom. And I've done a few others I couldn't find images of. A big part of my thing is kind of spectacle and having a party. When I first moved here, I got involved with the Missoula Art Museum, and I helped plan their Artini events, which happened on the third Thursday of every month. The aim was to bring in a younger demographic of community members to get interested in art. And it wasn't to initially make money off of them, but maybe when they got older and they got richer, then they would be like, oh man, I remember the Missoula Art Museum being really cool and I want to donate all my money to them. So I started planning all their events and bringing in bands and having piñatas and break dancers and kind of like young, hip fun stuff. This night was at the Missoula Art Museum. It's called Iconoclash. People were invited to bring in bad paintings or thrift store paintings or found paintings, and a team of artists, all wearing these lab coats, were instructed to make them better. So that's me right there. Somebody came in with this painting, and they wanted a bald eagle kind of on this guy's head and lasers coming out of eyes, so I did all those things for him for a small fee. But yeah, they're giving me instruction as I'm painting. In the past, I've also kind of gone back, I guess, to the architectural roots and made playhouses for the Boys and Girls Club auction that they used to have. I guess they no longer do it. But this house is kind of inspired off from the movie Beetlejuice. And I took some more pictures of this one. And kind of wallpapered the inside with some of my relief prints. There's hardwood floors. Kind of have a lot of fun. 2012 when John Tester was running for Senate. This is Jeff Annette from the band Pearl Jam. They asked me to design some t-shirts. Tester, since he's missing 3 of his fingers, kind of has that permanently hang loose symbol, which I thought was kind of like perfect. I collaborate a lot. That's a big part of my work. This is, I made these danceable cabinets for a dance company in Missoula called Bear Bait Dance Company. So they asked me to design 6 different danceable cabinets that they could have like full range of motion, that had, some of them had specific things they needed to do. It was called How to Open a Cupboard. And there were some that were 2-people cabinets. Yeah. And they'll come back into play later with some of my later collaborations. At Home Resource in Missoula, which is a building supply facility that people donate old building, instead of going to the landfill, you donate them to Home Resource. Once a year they have an event called Spontaneous Construction, which I do pretty much every year. This year that I think it might have been 2012, 2013, I created a printing press that resembled a chicken. So over there, we kind of put together this weird, very lively chicken. And then over here, we're putting down a woodcut. And you actually ride the chicken, the prints. So if you pay attention, yeah. So there, we're carrying it, and the weight of the action of riding it transfers the woodcut, which is pretty much like a stamp, onto whatever. You can print t-shirts, you can print paper. And the image is a guy riding a chicken. So that was kind of full circle. But yeah. And you only have like 5 hours. It's kind of like junkyard words. You have like free range at their lumber yard, whatever, and you gotta make something. So my free time. This, me and my friends, we entered a boat race down the Clark Fork. We called it the Wild Rose. We constructed this kind of pontoon. It was the slowest boat. But it had a drum set. We couldn't sacrifice the drum set, so we drummed all the way down Clark Fork through Brennan's Wave. But it's kind of, I don't know, just kind of one way to spend a Saturday. Yeah, then I don't know, somehow we got turned around, we went through Brennan's Wave, but we made it, we're all in one piece. We're good, yeah. And then like one random Saturday, I went down to the Oval on campus, and that morning I built a catapult. I welded together a catapult, and I sewed all these little bags. They're little kittens, cat bags, and they're kind of like bean bags, and I called it a cat-apult. And I just launched free cats to kids walking by. You know. One thing I've been involved with a lot over the years since I've been here is the Day of the Dead parade and the big steamroller print. So in the background you see this big steamroller running over a big relief block. Here I'm inking up an image of my grandfather who had just passed away as a Tijuana zebra. And yeah, we just use house paint and bed sheets instead of paper to create these big prints. A year before that, I think I did this big white tiger on a bed of roses. Yeah. It's a great opportunity to make large prints. A lot of times in printmaking, I feel like we don't go too big, but this, you can go big. When I teach, I always try to come up with clever projects. Here we made a taco stand, and we were selling taco cookies while people printed. But like all the students kind of got together and had different aspects. Like somebody did the packaging, somebody did hats, somebody did the signs, somebody did some like wallpaper around the base. And here's an image of the taco cookies. Like the cookies, like the tortilla. There's like M&Ms that are the beans. Marshmallows are the sour cream. Yeah. And then if you guys haven't ever made it to Missoula for the Day of the Dead parade, there's usually, they remind me of like sails of a ship, kind of like marching down. I don't know, the theme of Day of the Dead just deals with celebrating those that have died in some way or another that are special. I think in our culture it's really hard to talk about death sometimes, something we avoid. But yeah. Another year, one of my classes, we built a very large paper mache serpent that everybody printed little individual bones, and we made a head together and marched down through the parade. I think there was like 30 people in there. It might have been 45 feet long. It was kind of an ambitious one. I don't know if I would do again in hindsight. But it was kind of cool. 2012, I think, I had the opportunity to have a show at the Missoula Art Museum. It was a kind of a weird opportunity because it was only one night they had free, but they wanted something to happen on that night. And they asked me if I had any ideas, and I was like, yeah, I can do something. So with like 2 or 3 months notice, I created a show called Semantic Ascent. And I kind of designed it because I knew it was a lot of work to fill up the main gallery, the Carnegie gallery at the Missoula Art Museum. It's like a really big space. I didn't have a lot of time. So what I did was I printed a bunch of Newt Gingrich heads and a bunch of like leotard bodies and a bunch of different limbs, hands, feet, step stools, and I hung these kind of colorful paintings around equally in the space, and then I let the public hang up the body parts as they saw fit. So everybody got like some push pins, everybody got some arms, some legs, some heads, and they got to work. And they kind of I let them choose how they went up on the walls during the day before the opening that night. So you can kind of see everybody planning their attack. I gave a list of instructions. I can't remember exactly what it said, but there were a few prompts and a few suggestions, and I was there to problem solve if any problems arise. But I really wanted them to use their own creativity and composition and playfulness of how they would arrange the parts. There was this big quote. It's a Noam Chomsky quote that means pretty much words are meaningless. So, and I thought of these colorful paintings as like meaningless talk bubbles. They're beautiful, but they mean nothing. Kind of like the words some politicians might say. Like they're really well spoken, but in the end, they don't mean anything, is what the concept in my mind was. So, yeah. So that was the actual wood, the blocks that I painted white, then rolled up in black ink and mounted on the walls, kind of like a title. You'll notice I made custom hats on the side that kind of matched the hats that Newt was wearing throughout. So there would be a photo op opportunity. The night of the show, I mean, it was pretty, there was a lot of people there. You give wine and everybody comes. Yep. But, I mean, I had a DJ, people like music. This was the photo op. People could take their photo on the way in wearing those silly hats. I don't know. It's very playful. The band The Best Westerns played later in the evening. Again, that's kind of me like reaching out to find multifaceted kind of ways to entertain, keep people there, have fun. The first 100 people got these 3D masks that had 3D goggles built in, so if you look through them at somebody, it kind of pops out a little bit. Downstairs at the Art Museum, we were printing t-shirts, relief blocks. These were some of my students that I was teaching in a relief class. I don't know what this is. This is just something fun I do. Every once in a while I'll make these little things called GIFs, just like from things on the internet I find. And I just like kind of collage them. I don't know why I put that there. But at this point, I don't know, in my free time, I get to my studio. I was working on this really long drawing. It was like 30 feet long, 42 inches wide, highly detailed drawing. Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like a journal of sorts. I'd just work on it here and there. Here's the detail of just all the little dots that went into it. This, I never got a really good photo of it, but I kind of liked it. It was a piece, there's this actress named Zoe Deschanel that I kept on like seeing everywhere on TV and in movies. She kind of got on my nerves, so I made a scroll of her. I did a relief print, printed it on paper, and just did it over and over again. And then if you stepped on that box, it turned on the paper shredder and just kind of slowly like made her disappear. I don't know. Yeah. So this is right around my thesis time. I did this woodcut collage. I carved this block that you kind of see this background, and I've used that print a lot. I printed it a ton. I just made like tons of prints of it, like just stacks and stacks and stacks of prints of it. In preparation of for my MFA thesis show called Asynthetic Spring, I even printed on fabric and I made these costumes. You notice the costumes even have like little gloves built in. And then I built this pretty large set. This happened at the Crystal Theater. And I guess there's a scale of what a normal individual looks like. And I built this set. And these are the costumes when they were finished. This is kind of prep before the show. It was a one-night only event. And I collaborated with the Bear Bait Dance Company again. And those are all dancers. And the whole set and the crew, this is everybody. Everybody was an actor or a dancer pretty much. So there was attendance, there was little stations set up, so everybody had these conversations with people. They were all scripted. It was kind of, it was interesting. I had somebody play myself, like I was upstairs watching, and Jeff Medley, a local actor, was playing me, and he was answering all the questions people would have. Going into the event, I kind of planned everything. Like I knew like people were going to wait in line. I knew there was going to be a lot of people, so there was going to be a really long line. And there was like a door guy, then there was 3 greeters, and then there was a merch table with 2 people, and then there was an artist and his 2 assistants, and then there was a photo op. Then you had to wait for a number to be called, and then this person would let you in, then you'd go have this experience in there, and these people would be dancing, and then you'd leave and you'd get a custom fortune cookie on the way out. It's really hard to explain in a really short period of time, but inside this room, out here, everything kind of was on repeat. I had somebody create a track of Once in a Lifetime, kind of edited the Talking Heads song, and it was just, it played over and over and over again. The dancers did the same dance routine over and over again. All the actors did the same thing over and over again, to the point of exhaustion. Like, it's kind of a critique on a lot of things I see in like pop culture. And then I was trying to offer something the complete opposite of this repetitive nature inside, which was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I don't know, there might be a photo of it later. I engineered this kind of 42-inch wide paper shredder that was slowly destroying that one drawing I showed, that big scroll drawing. So that was the only picture I took of it. So I was kind of hoping people were having this unique experience inside of that little room that no one else had, because when they were in there, they were having this one moment with a drawing that's never been seen before. But on the outside, everything is like repetitive and pop culture-ish, and then you have the sincere moment on the inside. Going into this event, I tried to make a lot of hype, I guess you could call it. And I made, just to give you an example, this was like a trailer.
Just a minute and imagine.
Just like you.
So there's Jeff Medley playing myself.
Hello, I'm Jack Metcalf, and I want to introduce to you a synthetic spring. A synthetic spring is a one-night homely art project coming to you in Blue, Montana on April 18th at crystal clear. This is not a get rich. This is not a business opportunity. There is nothing to necessarily buy. An experience that
I did paint that eagle too.
resonate.
Every once in a while I do oil painting.
This is a collaborative art project. But let's not put the cart in front of the horse. We call ourselves artists.
So, then let's do that. So yeah, that was a that was a lot of work. I'll put it that way. Yeah. Later on, I reused the set again. This is for the roller derby team in Missoula. They did a calendar shoot, and each month I had a different artist. So I was like, I have this set, I have these costumes, might as well use it again. And I made this big rug, and then yeah. And a lot of times when I print stuff, I think about like, instead of making an edition, instead of making like 50 exact same things, how about I build like an army? Like what makes sense to have a lot of? So I printed a bunch of these like screaming ladies, I don't know, for another show. And a lot of times like I'll print these hands a lot and then I'll collage them. These are all relief with screen print on top, and then I mounted them on wood, cut out the wood to the shape, and then coated them in resin and made a two-dimensional piece. I do these weird bingo performances every once in a while. I'll show a video in a little bit of that, but I won't yet. 2014, I had a show, maybe 2013. I had a show at the Brink Gallery in Missoula called American Pastime. I collaborated with a poet named Jacob Kahn. What we did, we created this kind of soapbox where people were invited to come up and stand on. When they stood on the soapbox, it chanted USA, like a large crowd saying, USA, USA. And then on the teleprompter, there was a script that was rolling. It's like a poetic political speech that people were encouraged to read from. And it opened up some areas of like fill in the blank, like it would prompt you to speak your own opinions. But it was poetically written. This also over here, you kind of see these people in their cubes. I made these little repeating GIFs with poetry being said in the background, so people could have like a private moment in these little private theaters of sorts. And I think I'm going to show a video of that because, yeah, this was 2013.
I feel it, and I brood over it, and it comes then.
So
very
the
simply
audio is
from
coming
me.
from some of the script.
Do you see how simply it comes out of me, you see? I feel it, and I think about it.
So there's
and
the
then
soapbox,
and I know then it is
microphone,
a simple thing.
teleprompter.
Why are you always saying then it is a complicated?
A lot of my work, I feel like I try to engage the public, the audience, try to shift them from being spectators to participants, whatever age they are.
You see that this is a simple.
We had corn dogs at this one.
Why then should you make of it a complicated thing when it is a simple thing? Do you see now that it is a simple thing, this thing? Why do you make everything a complicated thing? You see, this is a simple thing. Everything is a simple thing. You make everything a complicated thing when everything is a simple thing, do you see? It is a simple thing. You say that it is a complicated thing, do you see? Everything is a simple thing. That is certain, do you see? That is certain.
Okay, this was a show I had in Butte called All the Pretty Horses. I built this little racetrack for miniature horses. And my friend Jeff Medley, again, he played a racehorse announcer named Percival Limburger. And kind of made it this exciting. Well, they like asked me to have a show in Butte. I was like, man, what do people in Butte like? And I thought, gambling. So I let people gamble on these mice we called horses. And they had clever names like Meryl Squeak and Mice Tyson. And Yeah, I had originally thought they would be wearing these costumes, but they could not stand them. So they just were on pedestals. Yeah, I think I'll show, there's a video I'm going to show later that kind of shows a little bit of that. This was a show I had in San Francisco. It was during a printmaking conference called the SGC International. It's like the big printmaking conference every year they host in a different city. And at the opening party, they asked me to do something. So I kind of created the situation when people entered the party, they had to stand on this box and these lights turned on, and this music turned on, the dancers turned on, and then this guy in a tux came out and handed a trophy of John Cusack holding his boombox over his head from a movie, and it just made everybody feel special. And then in the background, I used the paper shredder I had previously used for a synthetic spring. It's kind of destroying things that had a short bit of fame, I think, or short bit it's kind of like that ephemeral, new things becoming old. It's kind of like crystal clear Pepsi was really hot for 2 months, and then the Segway was, they thought it was going to change the world. Floppy disks, Rolodexes, things we thought were important, but now are archaic and kind of futurist toys of the past. But the paper shredder is kind of neat. I don't know. It took me a while to figure it out. It consists of a rotisserie motor, a windshield wiper motor, a garage door opener, 16 sets of scissors. So it slowly, and it's kind of triggered by switches. So every 20 seconds, the garage door opener will pass, and then it triggers something that cuts the paper, and it's like a really elaborate, silly confetti maker of sorts. But I made a little promo video for this. It's me talking to myself, kind of interviewing myself. And I'll show that video. I like that video a lot. It's a nice video. I call it Two Jacks or a vase.
Begin. It matters who's asking. Funny you should say that. I was thinking the same thing. Is that so? Jack, let's talk about the original. About you?
I might not show the whole thing. It gets kind of long and wordy.
Tell me about yourself. My name is Jack, and yes.
When I approach an art project, I guess I don't think I'm a painter or I'm a printmaker. I feel like I try to have a large skill set, so I try to match my idea with whatever process works best, whether it's video, film, printmaking, performance, drawing,
Jack,
building, woodworking.
it's a piece called Finite Jest. I heard it was called Instruments of Bareness. I'm pretty sure it's called that. I am past forgetting. I am forgetting what's past. But why cut your art up? What's this whole show about? It's about time, about things slipping into the past, about new stuff becoming old. Like chimneys. Or dogs? Yes. Like that.
Okay,
It's
that's probably enough
metaphorical.
of that.
Ha 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 ha.
All right. Let's go back. So I guess about a year ago I had a show at the Brink Gallery again. This was the last one before they closed. What was it? I can't even remember the name of this show. But I made a bunch of lamps, pretty much, that looked like houses I had lived in. They're kind of stripped down, deconstructed, abstract versions of different houses, apartments I lived in since I was a child. And it was in a collaboration with another professor at the university his name's Steve Krutek, and he did the pieces on the wall. But the gallery is kind of scattered with these little lamps, houses, and I made these little mountains as backdrops. One of the things I find interesting, I always play around with pricing of artwork. This is the equation for calculating the prices. So the materials for each lamp cost me about $40, and I spent about 10 hours on each lamp. So I asked people to use X as their approximately hourly wage. So say you made $10 an hour. You would times 10 by 10, which is 100, then you would add 40, so the price of the piece would be 140 bucks. I thought it was an equal way of my time for your time kind of thing, an equation of sorts. If you're unemployed, then it's zero, then it would just be $40. But if you were really rich, then it would, yeah, I don't know. So you get it. Whether you had different, they're all titled different addresses I lived at over the years. Sometimes people ask me to do things that they probably regret This is a shirt KBGA. They asked me to design a shirt. I was like, what do you want to look like? They're like, whatever you want. So I made this. I don't know what's going on. I was in the Butte St. Patrick's Day Parade last year. I was calling bingo out of a flatbed. That's my van over there. And they could win a mermaid, so people were encouraged to play bingo following us through the parade route. Everybody's cards were the same because I printed them like a relief block, and nobody won the mermaid. But after the bingo event, like people were playing bingo, and this was kind of in the end. It was a 2-person rainbow outfit. I just thought it was hilarious. I don't know, just like because they were walking around but not together all the time. I don't know. Last spring, I did this little piece in Portland at the SGI, Southern Graphics Council International Conference. It's called Reproduction in the Digital Age. It's kind of a play on Walter Benjamin's writings. I was trying to think of like how printmaking can be unique and precious, and I started thinking about like multiples and when multiples are like special. And I thought about identical twins and how like they're multiples of each other and they're like identical and they're same, but they're kind of rare. It doesn't happen a lot. 1 out of 67, I think, or something like that. It was actually more common than I thought before I did the research. And I kind of set up a kiosk in this area of the school where there's a video playing, and these guys were all for sale. But it was really hard to buy them because it's hard to put a price on a baby, I guess. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I have a kid, and I think about kids a lot and how precious they are. But the video was, I'll show you a little clip of that. So these.
Hi. Hello. This is my brother. This is my brother. By me. By us. One of a kind, yet kind of one. Together. Priceless. Together. Priceless. Precious. Because we are multiples. We are twins. 1 out of 67. That makes us unique. That makes us rare.
All right, so it's kind of thinking about printmaking, I guess, in abstract terms. Probably thinking too much about printmaking. This was another bingo performance. Yeah, I'll talk about that in a little bit. This piece I collaborated with a poet. She wrote a book called Paper Thin Canoe, and she needed some cover art, and I created this piece for the cover after reading her book. And there were some story passages about these 2 young brothers that were growing up, and one of them had a book bag that looked like a frog, and the other one was jealous. I don't know, but kind of related to the story. This is a set I built of poppies for a theatrical performance that dealt with like kind of a femme fatale kind of figure, and I think of poppies as being something beautiful but also potentially dangerous or deadly, as being opiates. Yeah. This is just a piece I kind of find like stuff around my shop. I cut up things and then I put them together in new and exciting ways. This piece is based off of the writings, what was that book? Society of the Spectacle. And this was a backdrop for a photo shoot for people entering the Montana Film Festival. So I brought a pair of 3D glasses. When they walked into the festival, they sat in front of it looking the same, and we took their photograph. And I got contacted with some folks that were going out to the pipeline, and I started reading into it for imagery, and I found the story of the black snake kind of being a metaphor for the pipeline in a lot of different Native American cultures, and how once the black snake crosses the river, pretty much it's a horrible thing, so you got to stop the black snake from crossing the river. And that was a very powerful kind of story. So I borrowed that story and made these t-shirts, and I think we printed 200 of them just to distribute completely free in North Dakota. And then, I don't know, in my free time, I built kids' tree houses sometimes. And I usually work with the kid, and I try to work with the tree as best as possible. With this one, I didn't even touch, barely low impact, didn't cut any branches. You can tell window placement. They had specific things they wanted. They wanted like a puppet show window, so there's that. And then they wanted like a hidden door and pulleys, and so, yeah. A few years ago, I had a repeat student. The student must have really liked me. He took a lot of classes from me to the point of exhaustion. I was like, but after he graduated, he got into filmmaking, and he was like, I want to do a little mini doc on you and your art practice. So he made this little documentary. I think it kind of captures a lot of things I've said already pretty well, and I think it's entertaining, but it's about me, so I think
Memories are more poetic.
it's hard for me not to find it interesting.
Nobody remembers the same event exactly the same as somebody else, which I like. And you can also elaborate memories, kind of a little bit more flexible or elastic. Real good is my studio space / gallery / event venue of sorts. It's really open to interpretation. A lot of people that deliver pizza here or walk by, they're like, what do you do in there? And I'm like, I tell them I make weird stuff and I do weird things. I compare making art to getting Christmas presents. Some nights I have a hard time sleeping because I'm so excited about making and what I am making and what I'm going to wake up and see the next day if I'm in mid-progress of something. I really like process-oriented things. I like using tools. I like precision. When you work hours and hours doing something, you get in this meditative zone, and it's euphoric. It's one of my favorite places to be. It's in the zone of creating and just making. I have an interest in pop culture, and I do poke fun at pop culture. I try not to make fun of people per se, but I like to make fun of the world we live in. I wasn't really satisfied with just printmaking. I didn't want to have so many restrictions. I really like being fearless. I really like coming up with ideas to make printmaking work beyond the edition. And that's where I kind of find myself now, is just trying to think of ways that make sense to use printmaking as a tool to create these events or create environments, or some way to use printmaking in a more contemporary fashion. To me, that's refreshing, to find ways to insert what I do in other formats. I don't think my work is too highbrow. I'm not saying that to lessen the work. I want my work to be accessible. I want my work to be fun. I want my work to linger with people. I do like to have participants instead of spectators. It might be uncomfortable for some people, but I think it might linger with them a little bit longer if they're actually being active participants instead of a passive spectator. It's definitely interesting to see people participate in these constructed situations. Bingo, nobody's ever died to me. Bingo. Oh man, this one is for the record books, folks. We got a 069. Alright, so when you win, you usually say bingo. Does anyone have bingo? So we have 4 winners. Can you spin the wheel and see what prize our 4 winners have won? Surprise! Oh, can you peel that back, my friend?
was the same to me. Horse race contestant! Holy shit! Lucky for us, we have one-of-a-kind horse race announcer all the way from Boca Raton, Florida, Percy Limburger! He coined the phrase, every horse has its day. In the 80s, he's the one. We use it even today. Percy Limburger. Hey everybody, my name's Percy Limburger. I'm Boca Raton, Florida. I'm excited to be here tonight. Woo! We got trouble. We got heartache and confusion.
Prior to meeting my wife and having a son, I had a really great studio ethic. I would be there 9 o'clock every morning and I would stay to pretty much 3 a.m. every night. And I slept only 4.5 hours. And I would take a break to go run. I did that for years. Things have changed since I had a kid. I can't be that selfish anymore. I really like spending time with them. If you're living solely off your art, you're going to have to make products that people will buy that will support you. I chose the path of finding other ways to make money in order to support my art practice. I've been bartending for over a decade, just a couple of times a week, and that has allowed me the luxury to keep on having these events where they can be free, or I can even lose money. It's really nice to be able to have that freedom and not feel like you have to make your income or support your family off of making your art. I'm not interested in making work that will last longer than I am in its physical form. I value it as creating these events that will affect somebody and they'll tell a friend about it, or they'll have this memory of this event they went to that was completely bizarre but wonderful at the same time.
Alright, so that's that. Then I don't have much more, and I think I'm running out of time. So I don't know if I want to even talk about this, but I did run for public office this fall. I was running for Justice of the Peace. I have a lot of friends that are public defenders in Missoula County, and they were a little concerned about who was appointed to the interim position because they were a parole officer for 20 plus years. And they didn't feel like it would be fair for their clients to have a history and it wouldn't be a true impartial judge in justice court. In justice court, the judge doesn't have to have a law degree. It can be any member of the community could run for that elected position. So I decided to run for Justice of the Peace, Missoula County. Just trying to offer a fair, pragmatic. After seeing my slideshow, you might not think I'm sane, but it's I don't know. I consider myself a creative problem solver and a hardworking individual that listens. But so I did the design of these yard signs, bumper stickers. And my last name's Metcalf, so I was thinking 2 cows with the hands meeting as Metcalf. And then I thought it was clever, Metcalf on your behalf. But it was fun. I've met a lot of people, had great conversations, learned a lot. Ended up with over 13,000 votes. I wasn't that far behind. And I was up against some steep competition. Somebody that had the support of the county commissioners, the entire police department. Yeah, that was in the homecoming parade. But I don't know. I guess what my thing is, I just try to turn art into like a 24 hours a day, 7 days a week lifestyle. Even with my son, like we were constantly like making projects, whether it's turning a cardboard box into a costume or I don't know. We're building a really elaborate treehouse in our backyard, right? Well, it's on delay for the snow, but we just have a lot of fun. I don't know. Yeah. And then in closure, that's it. Thanks for coming. If you have any questions, I'm here for questions.
That was excellent. Thanks
Cool.
for coming.
Cool. Not a problem. Thank you for having me.
Jack, I think Walter Hook would love to know you.
He was a hard-working individual.
He was.
Yeah, he
and
was very prolific.
He wasn't deterred by any idea.
Yeah, yeah. And, you know, I used to have this problem, like even bartending. I hear people like say, "Oh, I'm going to do this," and they never do it. You know, and that motivates me. Just. I hate to say it's cheesy. It sounds like a Nike ad, but just do it. You know, if you have that idea, just yeah.